political leader of the United National Congress who's viewing us this evening. Let us give her Fyzabad welcome to the Pavement Report. A soft-spoken, a kind-hearted, a gentleman. You know him as your own Dr. Lakram Bodo here in the constituency of Fyzabad. Thank you, Dr. Bodo, for hosting us this evening. I see several of my parliamentary colleagues here this evening, members of the National Executive, our own chairman, MP Dave Tanku, who's a resident of the constituency of Fyzabad as well, our deputy political leaders, David Lee, deputy political leader, Jillian John, and I believe the lion is here somewhere, roaming, Dr. Rudal Munilal. Our colleagues in the OWTU, we have borrowed your blue tonight, but it's good to see you here in Fyzabad, the heart and soul of the labor movement of Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters all, a few days ago, the Prime Minister visited the constituency of Maruga Tabelland. Now, Maruga Tabelland used to be a part of Princestown because prior to 2007, the constituency was one constituency. It was Princestown. So the Prime Minister journeyed on Friday last. Usually, we'll have a sitting of Parliament on Friday. But the House of Representatives have been on leave to a date to be fixed. This is 2 going on 3 weeks. The House of Representatives has not sat to do the people's business. The Prime Minister journeyed there on Friday. As Saddam told you earlier, the next day the Prime Minister and several members of his cabinet, including one Rohan Sinanan, was photographed on all newspapers with 2 fish in their hands. Well, Saddam told you it was a carrot, but I looked a little closer. It was really catfish. Now, you see, I listened carefully to what the Prime Minister and Rohan Sinanan had to say in Maruga Tabelland. And I could understand why they were holding catfish. In the young people language, there's something called catfishing. And I'll explain to you what catfishing is. Because exactly what the Prime Minister and Rohan Sinanan said in Maruga Tabelland was nothing short but catfishing. Catfishing is the process of luring someone into a relationship by means of a fictional persona. That is what the dictionary has. This is not a word that I'm making up. It says that catfishing is a process of luring someone into a relationship by means of a fictional persona. You see, when I saw the 2 of them holding up this catfish, and I looked closer, and I listened to what they had to say, I said to myself, they couldn't be that foolish, that dishonest, to take the people of Maruga Tabelland and the people of Trinidad and Tobago for fools once more. I see Bellman ringing the bell down there. Bellman, you could tell the crowd here tonight that when Rohan Sinanan came and he told the people in Maruga Tabelland last week, Friday, that your vote will be dependent on the progress that you see, that has been a lie for the past 10 years. Between 2015 to 2020, there was a man called Lovell Francis that the PNM supporters in Maruga Tabelland voted in as a member of parliament. For 5 years, the problems remained the same between 2015 to 2020 in Maruga Tabelland. The problems remain bad roads, no water in the taps, and youth unable to get employment. Now that sounds like a story everywhere you go in Trinidad and Tobago. But you see, when they went down to Maruga Tabelland, the last time we saw Rohan Sinanan and Rowley in Maruga Tabelland was when we had the by-election for the Lengua Indian Walk seat. Now, You see, when you talk Lengua Indian walk and you talk Rohan Sinanan, he has jogged something in my memory. Rohan told the country he is the only honest Indian. Tonight I want to ask Rohan Sinanan, what about the Indians in Lal Bihari Trace? What do you have to tell them? When you are the only honest Indian self-proclaimed, why are you not begging the people of Lal Bihari Trace to accept Stuart Young as one of their own? You have spent all of your time distancing yourselves from almost half of the population, going down in Muruga Tableland to pull wool over the eyes of the people of Muruga Tableland once more. But they will not be fooled by that. You see, when you were catfishing with 2 catfish in your hand, hugging up Rowley on one side, Kazim Hussein on the other side, telling the people of Muruga Tableland that the only way that they will see progress is if they vote the People's National Movement. What you are essentially telling them is when they voted you in 2015 to 2020, you treated them with nothing but scorn, disdain, and malice. And why did you do that to them? Water is one of the main issues affecting Muruga Tableland. Now it affects you here in Fyzabad. It affects Orupuch West. It affects Separia. When Kamla Prasad Bisesa was the Prime Minister of this country, 71% when we demitted office had a 24/7 supply of water. Anil Roberts and I sit in that joint select committee in February of 2023. So when I have to listen to Marvin Gonzalez stand up in the parliament and talk hogwash and foolery, Anil and I can tell you we were in that joint select committee. And when we questioned and we peppered WASA officials, we said, when Kamla left in 2015, tell us what was the water supply. They said sheepishly, they said it was 74%. We say, how much? They say 74%. And we say, we can't hear you. Tell us how much was it the whole country was getting. 74%. Anil saying it's not 74%. It's 74%. But brothers and sisters, do you know, in that same joint select committee, all of Trinidad and Tobago, when they surveyed, and this is not the UNC, this is WASA telling a joint select committee of the parliament this. When we asked them what, and this was 2023, how much of Trinidad and Tobago was receiving a 24/7 supply of water? In 2023, again, dropping their voice, talking under their breath, 16%. 16%. So when they come last week, Friday, to tell Grand Chamer in Muruga Tableland that the only way that you will see progress is under People's National Movement government, ask them where were they between 2015 to 2020. I heard Anil Roberts told you earlier, he said you want to talk about corruption, you want to talk about thieving, you want to talk about squandermania. The PNM has ruled this country for over 75% of Trinidad and Tobago's independent life. Now I'll tell you, Rowley don't like to hear me inside the parliament. Yeah? Hanks don't like to hear me inside the parliament. Yeah? Because you see, from 2015, when I stood up in the parliament and I told them, I said, look at your constituency. Look at Laventille West. Look at Laventille East. Look at Port of Spain South. They have voted nothing but People's National Movement for all of Trinidad and Tobago's independent life of over 60 years. And look at the squalor. You have left your own people in suffrage and in bondage for over 62 years in this country. You had the opportunity to fix the problems in public utilities, basic things like water in this country, in a constituency like Muruga Tableland. Muruga Tableland, over 80% of the constituency gets water once per week. Once, and that is if they are lucky. Brothers and sisters, on Friday when they told Grand Chemin, they said if you give us the vote, we will fix your water problems. In the budget of 2022, in the budget of 2023, they told the people of Maruga Tableland, and I'm pleading with the people of Maruga Tableland tonight, because you must go into this general elections with your eyes wide open, knowing what to expect from the PNM. You have had them for 62 years, and they have kept you in the bondage and squalor that you exist and live in today. You had paradise under Kamla Persad-Bissessar for 5 years between 2010 to 2015. You had opportunity. Your children got laptops in their schools. You got roads in your community. You got water. Brothers and sisters, when they told the people of Maruga in 2022 and 2023, and our sister, our MP there, Michelle Benjamin, has been fighting tooth and nail to get a reliable supply of water inside and outside of Parliament. You know what was their answer to the problems in Maruga Tableland with respect to water? They said in the 2022 budget, they came and they repeat the same lie in the 2023 budget. And they expect us to believe the lie again in the 2024 budget that they read in October, that they will build a desal plant in Maruga Tableland. So when we heard it in 2022, we heard it in 2023, we heard it in 2024, I told my staff, I said, let's do a word search in the budget documents, because I cannot find it anywhere. When we did the word search in the budget documents, we looked in the infrastructure development plan, we looked in the social sector plan, the public sector industrial investment program. There is no funding that has been assigned for the desalination plant in Maruga Tableland. But our sister, Jerlene John from Tobago, she will tell you, because she's from Charlottesville, they have been telling the people of Charlottesville the same thing since 1962. Today I went back and I checked that Eric Williams has been promising the people of Tobago desalinated water since 1962. And once more, Marvin Gonsalves goes there, and I want to big up Faith Brenner, the Deputy Chief Secretary in the Tobago House of Assembly, for putting Marvin Gonsalves and the PNM in their place with respect to WASA when they went in an effort to hoodwink the people in Tobago. The people in Tobago are not foolish. I'm asking the people of Maruga Tableland and the people of Trinidad to also not be foolish. These two desalinated plants that they have promised, they got the funding from the IDB over 3 years ago. So every time, Dr. Bodo will tell you, the mayor told you that they say the problem to fix the show of peace is money. You are not dependent in terms of bringing about these projects with respect to grant funding. You are not dependent on the contingencies in the consolidated fund. This money was already allocated through an IDB loan of over $200 million that were acquired over 3 years ago. So the issue is not money. The issue is the political will and the people, the plans, the process, the machinery to get the job done. Brothers and sisters, I want to move away from the issue of water to the issue of electricity. But I want to come back to the issue of water in a few minutes. But let us deal with the issue of tea and tech. A few months ago inside of the parliament, and I always say, if it was not for your political leader, if it was not for your soldiers inside of the parliament, then the PNM would have ride roughshod over this country. We have been standing in the gap for you with respect to what is happening with the Regulated Industries Commission recommendations that has gone before the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of raising your water and electricity rates. We filed a question in the Parliament a couple months ago It was myself and MB Indarsingh questioning the Minister of Public Utilities. Today, we have found out that as of April 2024, the government owes TNTech over $1.8 billion. But when TNTech workers ask you, and Indarsingh has been talking about it, when TNTech workers are asking to give them $2 more to buy bread to put on their tables, they're telling you no, you can get 1%. But Rowley, at the end of February, for the first time, will receive $87,000 a month. And I've been saying to you, brothers and sisters, when you see Rowley jump out of himself in December and he told you he going, but in January he's still sitting down in the office of the Prime Minister. In February he telling you he had to go CARICOM meeting. In truth and in fact, the reason why he was still staying on as Prime Minister is that the administrative arrangements to collect the new salary of $87,000 does not come on stream until the end of February, and that is why he's staying until February. So brothers and sisters, we threw out a challenge to the Prime Minister. It was reported on every news network when I said, Prime Minister, tell the country if it is true or if it is not true. Up to now, the Prime Minister has PIP. The Prime Minister is not saying. But we know, because we have been calling him out from day one on the issue. It was your United National Congress members Indarsingh, myself and the political leader who had to smoke them out when we dropped the SRC report. But brothers and sisters, sometimes our memories are too shallow. And when Anil told you tonight, you must remember who was the man who shut down Petrotrin because his best friend was caught in a scandal with over $200 million in fake oil. Do you remember who was that? Do you remember? Do you remember the man who took away laptops from your children? Do you remember? Do you remember the man who told you that you could not get more than 1%, but he gave himself $87,000 a month and then told you, bye-bye? Ladies and gentlemen, the employees of TNTech today are feeling the consequences of a malicious and callous government who has very little conscience or no conscience at all to be perpetrating upon the people of Trinidad and Tobago one of the worst acts of indecency on the working class population. And that is why when I see our brothers from the OWTU working hand in hand with our candidate in San Fernando West, Dr. Dowlat, they understand what it means to take money out of your pocket, to take bread out of the mouths of your children. I told you I will come back to the issue of WASA. Tonight from this platform, I want to ask a very pertinent issue. You see, in TNTech, we told you when they were doing these consultations that there was a three-pronged process to increase water and electricity rates. TNTech has to submit a business plan to the Regulated Industries Commission. That was done. The Regulated Industries Commission will then call in everybody, all the stakeholders, and tell them, let us look at ABCD. That was done. The final step was the public consultations. Your UNC members of parliament, starting with St. Augustine Khadija Amin, Rudy Indarsingh, Saddam Hussein, Dr. Bodo, Arnold Ram, Rishi Sicharan, Dr. Munilal, David Lee, myself, every public consultation, we represented the views of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. By the time we were done with Dawn Callender, the chairman of the RIC, the pushback was so great. The issue was so much highlighted in the public space that the people of this country banded together that up to today, even though the Regulated Industries Commission has submitted to the cabinet cannot take God out of their thoughts to implement the new rates. We have been telling you, if you take God out of your thoughts and put back the P&M after the next general election, their very first act will be to increase electricity rates. The rates for electricity is already before the cabinet. So when we've been asking them, it's been over 1 year. You must tell the population you're going into a general election. What is the government plan? What is the government's policy with respect to electricity rates? Are you going to accept the Regulated Industries Commission's recommendation or not? Because the population has a right and deserves to know ahead of the general election. Because their vote must be dependent on government's plan and government's policy, because it will affect you in your pocket and it will affect you in your home. That is with respect to electricity. Brothers and sisters, tonight I have in my hand, you know, the political leader always talks about people dropping file in their mailbox. So I find it very strange. They stopped talking about the proposed increase in electricity rates. But I found it very strange they were saying nothing at all about the increase in water rates. Marvin Gonzalez is up and down. He's in Moruga, going to Charlottesville, is on the east-west corridor telling people that they're going to inject $200 million. Ask yourself, for 10 years they did nothing to improve the water sector. I see our sister Shanti protesting down in Sunrise in Penal. Shankar, I know it because I'm in touch with you always. The people in Cedros, Chatham, weeks and months having to depend on boiling, and this is no joke, you know, boiling seawater for their children to have to bathe, to drink, to go to school. But I found it very strange they were saying nothing about these water rates. But all they were talking about, they have had the IDB loan funds for 3 years, and they have done nothing. So the problem was not money for 3 years, because they had the money in hand. So all of a sudden, they have started speaking about $1 billion. Now, when I talk about 200 million US dollars from the IDB, that is over 1 billion TT dollars. So when Gonzalez started talking about he going to open water projects in the next couple of weeks and the next couple of months, I started to call my colleague in Moruga table, and I said, girl, they move a grain of sand in Moruga. She said, what are you telling me? She said, we don't even see a water truck in Moruga table. When I call Shankar telling me, MP, you falling for that mama guy? I said, well, no, I have to ask. Today I can safely say I have in my hands that the Regulated Industries Commission has already received the business plan and the business model from WASA. And this was since last year. The Regulated Industries Commission, now follow me and follow me well. I told you there's a 3-step process to implementing the new rates. So, they have sent the plan from WASA to the RIC. The RIC has completed its work. But the government has told the RIC, do not go out for public consultations. And that is what I have in my hand here today. So I am asking the RIC to break their silence. Is it true that the government has told you, hold off on the public consultations because we are in general election season? And therefore, once the work has been completed, they do not want Padarath, they do not want Saddam, they don't want Bodo, they don't want Indar Singh, they don't want Khadija, they don't want Lee. Going back out there, rallying the people, telling the people the truth that the RIC has already completed its work. And once the general election is called, should the PNM go back into office, they will not only be raising electricity rates, they will also be raising water rates. They have already completed the process. And tonight from this platform, We are calling on Dawn Calendar and the RIC to break their silence and say whether or not they will continue to be puppets of the People's National Movement administration, or whether or not they will stand at the side of the people of Trinidad and Tobago and stop allowing the PNM to pick your pockets and to destroy your homes. Those are the burning questions that are facing you when you go to the polls in the next general election, brothers and sisters. Saddam told you that we do not have years. We may not even have months. We have days and weeks ahead. The political leader told you to wash your jersey, find your rag, and we're in that season for rag and flag. So find your rag, find your flag. But I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, you must find the fire in your belly and the steel in your backbone to stand up and fight for your party and stand up and fight for your country. I want to tell you something here tonight. It is not easy. I have seen so many of our colleagues, over 200 nominees, filing to be the flag bearers of the United National Congress inside of the Parliament. Anil, you know it. You are a member of Parliament. Today you sit in the upper house. Saddam, you know it. Indar Singh, you know it. Dr. Munilal. Those who have come and labored before in the vineyards and have provided a platform like Kamla Prasad Bisesa, that today we stand on their shoulders. We have the opportunity today to fight for you. It has not always been easy. I remember when I first became a member of Parliament, Deputy Political Leader John told me, she said, I like you, you know. I said, you like me? She said, yeah. I said, why you like me? She said, because when they shout at you in the Parliament, you shout back. She said, when they jump up and cuss your ears, jump up and cuss them back. And she said, when they go low, she said, when them go low, you go below. I have never believed in all my time in politics that politics is for the weak. And that is why I tell you here tonight that we have the fire in our belly and the steel in our backbone. It is not always easy. And that is why I tell you tonight, over 200 people have filed their nominations to be a member of Parliament in our great party. But when you go into that Parliament and you have to battle, you have to have courage, but you have to have the intellectual capacity to be able to speak on the bills, the motions before the Parliament. Today, as we go into the next general election, I can safely tell you, you have had stalwarts standing in that Parliament, seeking your interests and fighting every step of the way. I want you to ask yourself, when the political leader most recently, not one person inside of that Parliament knew, because they did not take the time to read the bill, that they were coming with a plan to shut off pensions for the most vulnerable in our country. That is what is required of a political leader. That is the strength and mettle and intellectual capacity of a political leader to stand up and fight for you. When she can stand up and articulate the plans and the policies of our party, telling you that we will drill more wells in San Francisco, in Debe, in Pinal, in Chatham. We will invest in additional pipelines to be laid. We will invest in desalination water. That we will change out the aging infrastructure that is causing collapsed homes in Tableland, in Manticool, in Sahara Trace, in Diego Martin. Brothers and sisters, we have said to you tonight, we have demonstrated that we have the plans, we have the policy, but most importantly, we have the people. We have the people. Brothers and sisters, the time has come for us to hold hands and band together. You are seeing what is happening in Wassa. I have told you what is happening in TN Tech. You see what has happened in TSCT with Lisa Agard. Today, TSCT, after 1 year of a major cyber attack in this country, where your data, over 1 million subscribers, their data out there on the dark web, after 1 year of incompetence, they are now coming to say that they have a report into a cyber attack. This, brothers and sisters, and when I raised this issue, the speaker told me, she said, you can't use the word espionage and you can't use the word sabotage. When the national security apparatus that works with internet connectivity that is provided by TSCT, B-Mobile, has been infiltrated, what the hell do you call that if that is not treason? And Marvin Gonzalez says today, yes, we have been telling them to put the report in the parliament so everybody could see. But we have also been telling them that natural justice must occur. There must be due process. And therefore, if there are employees who have been named in the TSCT report, have provided a legal challenge with the contents of that report, then natural justice and due process requires them to go to the courts to seek redress. But ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Saddam has told you what is happening in the police service, and there's more to come. You know, before I leave tonight, I want to address, I called Saddam earlier today. I said, but Saddam, you know, I sit next to Dr. Munilal in the parliament, and I heard Rudal tell them, when they came with the nomination of not Erla Harewood Christopher, when they came with the nomination of Suzette Martin, DCP, Dr. Munilal was the contributor from the opposition bench. And Dr. Munilal said to them across the floor when he stood, he said, but this is not the same woman who undercharged herself. Now, the Police Service Commission sends the nominee to the president then sends it to the parliament, and the government determines whether they support what the Police Service Commission has sent. So when Dr. Munilal stood up and he said, but wait now, this woman has a police charge. There are complaints against her. She's on bail. And you are telling us, the government that is, that you are going to support Suzette Martin to become the DCP. We said no to that. I remember very clearly we said no to that. Do you know today, they're telling Erla Harewood Christopher, who is not on bail, who has not been charged, that she cannot serve as police commissioner. But Suzette Martin is the woman who leading the investigation against Erla Christopher, who was under charge and who was on bail. If this is not a fetting here, this is madness. This is madness. But ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, these are the machinations of the PNM. The political leader always tells us, she says, when the PNM's back is against the wall, that is when they are most vicious. They are lining up their ducks in a row. They are lining up their ducks in a row. They are hand-selecting people. Now, we knew from day one, Erla wasn't too bright. He didn't have a rocket scientist that was needed to tell you that. All she had to do was open her mouth. Then I heard the pastor yesterday, and I heard somebody say, well, if you couldn't get worse than Erla, then you get the preaching pastor. And then when you listen to Suzette Martin in the press conference, you really join with all of them, and when you say, God help us, God truly help us. But ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we are connecting the dots. We are connecting the dots, but this government does not have a plan. They do not have a policy to take us out of the morass that we're in. And we ask you to stand with us. Will you stand with us? Will you stand with our great party? Will you stand with our political leader, Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar? Will you put fire in your belly? Will you put steel in your back? Will you stand for home invasion laws? Will you stand for lowering and getting rid of the dreaded property tax. You must know when you go outside here that your party stands tall and stands with you. Brothers and sisters, tonight I say to you, forward ever, backward never. Long live our great party. Long live the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And long live the people of our nation, Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.